The vast darkness of space stretched endlessly around the CSS, defiant as it quietly pushed forward through the void. By any standard measurement of warships, the vessel was small, almost laughably so compared to the massive battle cruisers of the Vorn Imperium. Its sleek gray hull bore the scars of hasty construction, testament to humanity's desperate race against time. Captain Jack Porter stood on the bridge, his weathered face lit by the glow of control panels. At 45, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had nothing left to lose. He studied the star map projected before him, plotting their approach to the Proxima system. "Status report," Porter called out, his voice firm but not harsh. "All systems nominal, Captain," replied First Officer Ben Taylor from his station. "Engine output steady at 85%. We're maintaining stealth protocols." Porter nodded. The Defiant carried only 30 crew members, a skeleton crew by military standards. Each person aboard had been handpicked, not just for their skills, but for their ability to keep secrets. What the ship lacked in size, it made up for in the classified technology hidden within its modest frame. "Any sign of Vorn activity?" Porter asked. Communications Officer Lisa Ward shook her head. "Nothing yet, sir. But intelligence reports suggest at least 5 warships in this sector." The tension on the bridge was thick enough to cut with a knife. Everyone knew what they were up against. The Vorn ships were massive, heavily armed fortresses that dwarfed Earth's best vessels. Each carried crews numbering in the thousands and weapons that could reduce planets to rubble. "They'll laugh when they see us," Taylor said quietly. "They always do." Porter's mouth tightened into a grim line. "Let them laugh. They won't be laughing for long." 3 months ago, the Defiant had been a simple transport vessel. Now it housed the Sunflare Array, Earth's newest and most classified weapon system. Developed in secret laboratories beneath the lunar surface, the array had never been field-tested. Theory suggested it could change everything, but theory and reality often parted ways when lives were on the line. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Rob Green worked tirelessly, checking and rechecking the complex web of modified power systems. The Sunflare technology required enormous energy, more than the ship was originally designed to handle. Green had personally overseen the retrofitting, pushing conventional physics to its breaking point. "How's our baby doing?" he asked his assistant, May Foster, who was monitoring temperature levels on a nearby console. "Power flow is stable," she replied without looking up. "Core temperature within acceptable parameters, but I'm concerned about the coolant pressure in Section 4. Green ran a hand through his thinning hair. "Bump it up 5%. We can't risk overheating when the array activates." The ship hummed around them, its modified engines producing barely a whisper. Stealth was critical to their mission's success. They needed to get close enough to deploy the weapon before the Vorn could respond. Back on the bridge, Porter gazed out at the stars. Somewhere beyond those distant points of light, Earth waited for good news. After years of enduring Vorn occupation, blockades, and humiliation, humanity needed a win. Not just any win. They needed something that would make the Vorn and their allies think twice before dismissing humans again. "Sir," Ward called suddenly. "I'm picking up transmissions, Vorn battle language." Porter squared his shoulders. "Broadcast locations. Multiple sources. It's a fleet, sir." Her voice dropped slightly. "A big one." "Tactical display," Porter ordered. The view screen shifted, showing the outline of 7 massive Vorn warships arranged in battle formation ahead. They were still distant, about 4 hours away at current speed, but their position was clear. They were guarding the approach to Proxima Centauri. "Well," Porter said calmly, though his heart hammered in his chest, "looks like we found our test subjects." The CSS Defiant continued forward, a small ship carrying humanity's biggest hope, sailing toward a confrontation that would change the course of history. 3 years earlier, humanity had reached for the stars with hope and wonder. The first interstellar probe sent to Alpha Centauri had returned with amazing data, evidence of artificial structures and energy signatures. Earth united in excitement, preparing a proper first contact mission. The CSS Ambassador, loaded with Earth's best diplomats and cultural experts, departed with much fanfare and dreams of peaceful cooperation. No one expected what happened next. The Vorn Imperial flagship Dominant Force intercepted the Ambassador just beyond the orbit of Pluto. The massive alien vessel appeared without warning, it tall, dark, and angular like a predatory sea creature. It dwarfed the human ship by a factor of 20. Dr. Alan White stood among the Ambassador's crew that day, watching through the viewscreen as the alien ship approached. As Earth's leading xenolinguist, he was supposed to facilitate communication. Instead, he witnessed the beginning of humanity's nightmare. "I remember their first transmission," White told Porter during his briefing aboard the Defiant. "They didn't even try to understand us. Their commander, Admiral Cragg, simply told us to power down and prepare for inspection. Like we were insects to be studied." The Vorn boarded the Ambassador, examined its technology, and laughed. Literally laughed. Their translator devices converted their clicking sounds to English, and the message was clear. Humanity was primitive, backward, hardly worth conquering, but sitting on a resource-rich world. "Submit to the Imperium," Admiral Cragg had declared. "Your technology is at least 200 cycles behind ours. Resistance would be wasteful." Earth's governments refused. They still believed diplomacy might work, that surely an advanced civilization would respect autonomy. They were wrong. Within a month, the Vorn had established orbital platforms around Earth. They didn't invade. They simply cut humanity off from space. Any vessel attempting to launch beyond low Earth orbit was instantly destroyed. Resources from existing lunar and Martian colonies were redirected to Vorn supply depots. Earth was effectively under siege. "The worst part," White continued, pacing the small briefing room of the Defiant, "was how they treated us. Not as enemies worthy of respect, as primitives barely worth their attention." Vorn representatives would arrive for meetings with Earth leaders hours late, sometimes not at all. They spoke over human speakers and dismissed human concerns as childish. During trade negotiations, they set terms that stripped Earth of rare minerals while offering trinkets in return, and seemed genuinely surprised when humans recognized the imbalance. "They don't see us as equals," White concluded. "They see us as clever animals who somehow built cities." Porter remembered those days well. He had been captain of a lunar supply ship when the blockade began. His crew was stranded on the moon for 6 months before the Vorn allowed restricted travel for essential personnel. He lost his wife to a treatable illness during that time. Earth hospitals couldn't get needed medical supplies from off-world facilities. The CSS Defiant project was born from that period of darkness. While the Vorn watched major shipyards and military facilities, they paid little attention to the small research station in the asteroid belt. There, Dr. Maria Flynn had discovered something revolutionary while studying solar emissions. "The Vorn shields are advanced," she explained to the first military team assigned to the project, "but they're designed for kinetic weapons and energy beams. They've never needed protection from the kind of energy I've learned to harness." The Sunflare array was built in pieces, shipped as mining equipment to different locations, and finally assembled in secret on the refurbished Defiant. A ship so small and seemingly insignificant that the Vorn patrol vessels barely gave it a second glance when it slipped away from Earth's solar system. Now, approaching the Proxima system, Porter felt the weight of those 3 years of humiliation. The 30 people aboard his vessel carried the hopes of 10 billion on Earth. They couldn't fail. "Captain," Taylor called from his station, "Vorn fleet is adjusting course." "They've spotted us." Porter nodded. "Right on schedule. Let's see if we can get their attention." The warm red light of Proxima Centauri bathed the bridge of the CSS Defiant in an eerie glow. The star's angry face dominated the view screen, its solar flares reaching out like fiery tendrils. Near the system's second planet, a gas giant with swirling purple clouds, the Vorn battle group positioned itself in standard defensive formation. Lieutenant Emma Reed hunched over her tactical station, her fingers dancing across the controls as she analyzed the enemy fleet. The display showed 7 massive warships, their shapes resembling elongated arrowheads with jagged edges. Each ship bristled with weapons ports and shield generators. "Identification complete, Captain," Reed announced, her voice tight. 7 Vorn vessels, 5 Ravagtor-class destroyers, 1 Dominator-class carrier, and, she paused, swallowing hard, 1 Imperial dreadnought, the Voidhammer. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. The Voidhammer was infamous among human defenders. 2 years ago, it had single-handedly destroyed Earth's Jupiter defense station and its fleet of 40 ships. 10,000 people died in that battle. "The Voidhammer," Porter repeated quietly. "Looks like we've got the attention of Vorn High Command." First Officer Taylor moved to stand beside Porter's command chair. "Sir, those ships could level a continent. Each one carries at least 500 crew and enough firepower to glass a planet." Porter nodded grimly. "And they've arranged themselves perfectly for our approach, almost like they want us to come closer." On the communications console, Officer Ward's equipment suddenly lit up. "Captain, we're being hailed. Wideband transmission, completely unencrypted. They want everyone to hear this." "Put it through," Porter ordered. The main view screen shifted to show the bridge of the Voidhammer. Unlike the practical, utilitarian design of human ships, Vorn command centers were built to impress. Towering ceilings, ornate control stations, and dramatic lighting created a theatrical backdrop for the imposing figure in the center. Supreme Admiral Valok stood 7 feet tall, his scaled skin a deep blue-black that gleamed under the lights. The bony ridges above his eyes and along his jawline were adorned with metal inlays marking his many victories. His 4-fingered hands rested on a ceremonial belt that held both modern weapons and ancient Vorn blades. "Attention, human vessel." Valok's translator rendered his clicking speech into English. "You have entered restricted space. Identify yourselves immediately." Porter straightened in his chair. "This is Captain Jack Porter of the Earth vessel CSS Defiant. We are on a peaceful mission of scientific exploration." Valok's mouthparts twitched in what the crew had learned to recognize as the Vorn version of a smile. "A scientific vessel. With military-grade hull plating and engine systems." He made a sound that the translator didn't convert, but it was clearly laughter. The camera panned to show other Vorn officers on their bridge, all making the same chittering sound. "The humans sent us a toy," Valok continued. "Perhaps they wish to entertain us before we launch our new campaign against their outer colonies." Porter's hands gripped the armrests of his chair, but his expression remained neutral. "We seek only passage through this system. We have no hostile intentions. Yet you approach a Vorn battle group with your primitive vessel." Valok leaned closer to the camera. "Perhaps we should demonstrate what happens to insects who fly too close to the fire." Reed's console beeped urgently. "Captain, 2 of the destroyers are breaking formation. They're moving to flank us." "Hold position," Porter ordered calmly. "Make no aggressive moves." "A wise choice, human," Valok said. "We will decide your fate momentarily. My officers are placing wagers on how quickly your vessel will break apart under our lightest weapons. I personally give you 30 seconds. More Vorn laughter filled the channel before Valok cut the transmission. Taylor leaned close to Porter's ear. "They're completely underestimating us, sir, just as intelligence predicted." Porter nodded slowly. "Their arrogance has always been their weakness. They see our size and assume we're no threat." He pressed a button on his chair. "Engineering, this is the captain. Status report on the array." Chief Engineer Green's voice came through clearly. "Ready when you are, sir. The sun flare is primed and energy levels are optimal. We just need to get into position." "Understood." Porter looked up at the tactical display, showing the approaching Vorn ships. "Let them get closer. Let them think we're scared and confused." He turned to his bridge crew, his eyes reflecting the red light of Proxima Centauri. Their laughter stops today. The 2 Vorn destroyers approached the Defiant like wolves circling wounded prey. Their dark hulls gleamed in the red light of Proxima Centauri, weapon ports glowing with barely contained energy. On the bridge of the human vessel, the crew maintained their stations with tense professionalism. "They're taking their time," Taylor observed, watching the tactical display. "Playing with us." Porter nodded. "That's exactly what we want." "Engineering status." "All systems nominal, Captain." Green's voice came through. "But I need 15 more minutes to fully charge the array's capacitors." Porter's expression remained calm, but internally he calculated their odds. 15 minutes might as well be 15 years when facing Vorn warships. They needed to buy time without appearing too capable, a delicate balance. "Tactical, give me options that won't reveal our true capabilities," Porter ordered. Lieutenant Reed studied her console. "Standard defensive measures only, sir. Point defense systems, and minimal shields. Anything more sophisticated might tip them off." "Make it so." The first shot came as a warning, a low-powered blast that rocked the Defiant but caused minimal damage. The message was clear: surrender or be destroyed. "Shields holding at 87%, Reed reported. "They barely used any power in that attack. They're toying with us." On the communications channel, Vorn chatter filled the airwaves. They hadn't bothered to encrypt their signals, so confident were they in their superiority. "Look at it wobble," one Vorn officer commented. "These humans build ships like children build toys." "I wager it breaks apart after 3 more hits," another responded. "Too generous. Its hull will fracture after 2. Ward monitored the communications, her face flushing with anger. "They're betting on how quickly we'll die, sir." "Let them," Porter replied calmly. "Tactical, return fire with standard antimatter torpedoes. Make it look like we're giving it our best shot." The Defiant launched 2 torpedoes that streaked toward the nearest destroyer. The Vorn ship didn't even bother to evade. Its advanced shields absorbed the impact with minimal effort. More Vorn laughter echoed through the comm system. Was that truly their best weapon? "I've seen mining vessels with stronger armaments." Supreme Admiral Valok's voice cut through the chatter. "Enough play. Demonstrate to the humans what real weaponry looks like. Target their propulsion systems. I want them disabled, not destroyed. They may provide useful specimens for study." In the engine room of the Defiant, the situation was growing critical. Green and his team worked frantically, rerouting power from non-essential systems to feed the hungry maw of the Sunflare array. The experimental weapon drew energy at an alarming rate, causing fluctuations throughout the ship. "Power levels dropping in life support," Foster warned. "We're pushing the reactors beyond safe limits." Green's face shone with sweat as he adjusted settings. "We don't have a choice. If we don't get the array online, life support won't matter anyway." The ship shuddered as another Vorn attack struck home, this one significantly stronger than the first. "Shields at 60%, Reed called out. That hit was designed to cripple, not destroy. They're following Valok's orders. Porter opened a channel to engineering. "Green, we're running out of time. Can you give me something, anything, to work with?" "The primary capacitor is at 70% charge, sir," Green responded, his voice strained. "But firing at that level could destabilize the entire system." "What about a partial discharge? Just enough to surprise them." Green hesitated. "It might work. We could target just one ship instead of the whole fleet, but it would reveal our new technology." On the view screen, 3 more Vorn ships broke from the main group and began moving toward the Defiant. Their weapon ports glowed with building energy. "Sir," Taylor said quietly, "we have 7 minutes at most before they surround us completely." Porter made his decision. "Green, prepare for a targeted discharge. Minimal power, just enough to show teeth." "Aye, Captain. Reconfiguring now." Porter turned to Ward. "Open a channel to Admiral Valok. If we're going to surprise them, might as well do it properly." As Ward established the connection, Porter straightened his uniform and prepared for the performance of his lifetime. They needed just a few more minutes of Vorn overconfidence, before they could turn this mock battle into something the aliens would never forget. The view screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Valok lounging in his command chair. Behind him, Vorn officers moved with casual efficiency, occasionally glancing at the human ship with obvious amusement. "Have you called to surrender, Captain Porter?" Valok's translated voice held a note of boredom, a wise choice, though it would have been more entertaining to watch you struggle. Porter kept his expression neutral. "Actually, Admiral, I wanted to discuss terms." This caught Valok's attention. He leaned forward slightly, the metal inlays on his face catching the light. "Terms? You misunderstand your situation, human. There are no terms. You are already defeated." "Perhaps," Porter replied calmly, "but I thought you might be interested in examining our ship more closely before you destroy it. We carry certain experimental technologies." A flicker of interest passed across Valok's alien features. "Experimental technologies? From humans?" He made the chittering sound again. Laughter. "What could you possibly have developed that would interest the Vorn Imperium?" Porter smiled thinly. "That's for you to discover, Admiral." In engineering, Green's team worked with desperate intensity. Foster monitored the power readouts, her face illuminated by the red warning lights flashing across her console. "Core temperature approaching critical," she warned. "The capacitors can't take much more." Green didn't look up from his work. "Rear out coolant from the habitat sections. We don't need comfort right now. We need power. That'll leave the crew quarters without temperature regulation." "Do it," Green snapped. Then, softer, "Sorry. Just do it. It's our only chance." On the bridge, Porter continued his delaying tactic. "Our scientists have been working on something revolutionary, Admiral. Something that might surprise even the mighty Vorn." Valok made a dismissive gesture. "Your primitive attempts at deception are transparent, Captain. You seek to delay the inevitable." 60 seconds to full capacity," Taylor whispered to Porter, reading the update from engineering. Porter nodded almost imperceptibly. "Admiral, I assure you." "Enough." Valok slammed a four-fingered hand on his armrest. "This game grows tiresome. Commence the disabling sequence." The 5 Vorn destroyers now surrounded the Defiant in a pentagon formation. Their weapons ports glowed with building energy, targeting the human vessel's engine sections and weapon systems. "Sir," Reed called out, "they're powering up their main batteries. Impact in 30 seconds." Porter took a deep breath. "All hands, brace for impact and prepare for emergency protocols." He pressed the comm button on his chair. "Green, status." "Ready, Captain." Green's voice was steady despite the chaos in engineering. "The array is charged, but sir, once we activate it, there's no going back. The power surge will fry half our systems." "Understood." Porter looked around at his bridge crew, 30 people carrying the hopes of Earth. "Comment shutdown of all non-essential systems. Divert everything to the array." Throughout the Defiant, lights dimmed. Life support reduced to minimal levels. Gravity fluctuated as power redirected to the experimental weapon. On the Vorn ships, sensors detected the power drop. "Look," one Vorn officer called to Valok. "They're losing power. Their systems are failing." Valok leaned back, satisfied. "They cower before our might. Their primitive technology cannot even maintain basic functions when faced with true power." "Sir," another officer reported, "the human vessel is going dark. All weapons and shields are offline." Valok's mouthparts formed what passed for a smile among his kind. "They surrender before we even fire. Pathetic." He opened a channel to the human ship. "Captain Porter, your display of weakness is..." "Now, Green," Porter ordered, cutting off the Vorn transmission. Deep within the Defiant, Green pressed his palm against the activation panel. The ship trembled as the Sunflare array powered up, drawing energy from every system. The lights went completely dark for 3 seconds. In those moments of darkness, Porter thought of Earth, of his dead wife, of the years of Vorn humiliation. Then he spoke 6 words that would change the course of human history. Let's show them what humans can do. The darkness on the bridge gave way to a building glow, not from the ship's systems, but from the hull itself. The Defiant began to shine with an inner light that grew brighter by the second. On the Vorn ships, alarms suddenly blared. "Admiral," a panicked officer called out. "The human vessel. It's—" Valak rose from his chair, his arrogance replaced by confusion. "What is happening?" The answer came in a blinding flash of light. The bridge of the Defiant vibrated beneath Porter's feet as the Sunflare array reached full activation. The metal walls groaned under the strain of containing such tremendous energy. Warning lights flashed across every console, and the air itself seemed to crackle with power. "Array fully charged," Green's strained voice came through the comm system. "Containment fields at maximum. We can't hold this for more than 30 seconds, Captain." Outside, the Defiant began to glow. It started as a faint shimmer around the hull, then intensified to a brilliant white-gold aura that pulsed like a heartbeat. The light refracted through the vacuum of space, creating rainbow patterns across the Vorn ship's hulls. On the Voidhammer, Admiral Valak stood frozen in shock. His tactical officer frantically analyzed the readings coming from their sensors. "Unknown energy signature, Admiral," the officer reported, mandibles clicking rapidly in distress. "Nothing like this in our database." Valak snapped out of his stupor. "Raise shields to maximum. Prepare evasive maneuvers." But it was already too late. Porter raised his hand, then brought it down decisively. "Release the Sunflare." Green pressed the final activation sequence. For a brief moment, nothing seemed to happen. The Defiant's glow dimmed slightly, as if inhaling before a scream. Then it erupted. A wave of pure solar energy exploded outward from the human ship in all directions. Unlike a conventional explosion, this wasn't fire or plasma. It was concentrated, purified stellar energy, similar to what powered stars themselves. The wave expanded at near-light speed, a perfect sphere of golden-white brilliance that engulfed everything in its path. The first Vorn destroyer had no time to react. The energy wave struck its shields, which flared bright blue for a fraction of a second before collapsing completely. The wave continued unimpeded, passing through the hull like it was paper. Metal superheated instantly, turning from solid to liquid to gas in microseconds. The entire ship simply vanished, replaced by a cloud of superheated particles. "Direct hit on Target 1, Reed reported, her voice hushed with awe. "Complete. Complete destruction." The second and third destroyers met the same fate moments later. Their shields, designed to repel kinetic weapons and energy beams, were useless against this new form of attack. The Sunflare energy passed through their defensive systems as if they weren't there, converting matter to energy in its wake. Inside the Defiant, the crew held on as their ship shuddered violently. Special shielding built specifically for the array protected them from their own weapon, but just barely. "Hull temperature rising," Taylor called out. "Shield integrity at 60% and falling." Porter gripped his chair as the deck plates beneath him grew hot. "Hold on, just a few more seconds." On the view screen, they watched as the fourth destroyer tried to escape, its engines straining at maximum power. The energy wave, still expanding, caught it from behind. The ship's rear section disintegrated first, followed by the middle, then the command section, like a snake being consumed from tail to head. The carrier fared no better, despite its reinforced hull. When the wave hit, its massive hangars filled with fighter craft became its weakness. The smaller vessels inside detonated in chain reactions, tearing the carrier apart from within, even as the Sunflare energy dissolved its outer structure. Only the Voidhammer, with its experimental triple-layered shield system, managed to partially resist. As the wave struck, its outer and middle shields collapsed instantly, but the inner shield held for precious seconds, long enough for emergency systems to activate. "Admiral," a Vorn officer shouted above the alarms. "We can't withstand this. We must." The rest of his words were lost as the command deck erupted in flames. Velok, for the first time in his military career, felt fear grip his heart. Through the viewports, he watched his mighty fleet disintegrate. 6 ships, gone in seconds. Thousands of Vorn warriors, vanished without even the honor of battle. And at the center of the expanding golden wave, somehow still intact, floated the tiny human vessel they had mocked just minutes before. The last thing Admiral Velok saw before his flagship's systems failed was Captain Porter's face on a flickering viewscreen, expression grim, but eyes burning with vindication. The CSS Defiant limped back toward Earth, its hull scorched and systems barely functioning. The Sunflare array had extracted a heavy toll on the vessel that carried it. Throughout the ship, repair crews worked around the clock to keep life support online and engines running. In the medical bay, half the crew recovered from burns and radiation exposure. Chief Engineer Green lay on a bed, his arms bandaged from wrist to shoulder after manually stabilizing a coolant line during the array's discharge. Despite his injuries, a satisfied smile crossed his face as Porter entered the room. "Was it worth it?" Porter asked, sitting beside Green's bed. Green nodded weakly. "Every blister, Captain. To see the look on their faces when they realized what we'd done, I'd take twice the burns." News of the Defiant's victory had traveled faster than the ship itself could fly. The Vorn emergency beacon, standard on all their vessels, had broadcast the battle's outcome across their communication network. The message was simple but devastating. An entire battle group, including the legendary Voidhammer, destroyed by a single human ship. Porter made his way to the communications center, where Ward was monitoring incoming transmissions. "It's incredible, sir," she said, looking up from her station. "The Vorn blockade ships around Earth are pulling back. They're maintaining a distance of at least 1,000,000 kilometers now." Porter leaned against the doorframe, exhaustion evident in his posture. "They're afraid we have more ships like the Defiant." "Do we?" "Not yet," Porter replied. "But they don't know that." The remainder of their journey passed without incident. No Vorn vessel approached within weapons range of the Defiant. When they finally reached Earth's solar system, they found the situation dramatically changed. The oppressive Vorn presence had thinned considerably, with many of their larger warships withdrawn to defensive positions near the outer planets. As the Defiant approached Earth orbit, a fleet of small vessels came out to meet it, not to challenge, but to escort. Civilian ships, research vessels, even private spacecraft formed an honor guard around the battle-scarred ship. From their windows, people waved and cheered. Some held up homemade signs. "Defiant Heroes" and "Humanity Fights Back." The Earth central government had prepared a formal welcome ceremony, broadcast globally. When Porter and his crew disembarked, they walked through a corridor of cheering crowds. Scientists eagerly awaited Green's arrival, ready to analyze data from the Sunflare's first combat deployment. 3 days later, Porter stood in the United Earth Council chamber as representatives from every nation gathered to hear his report. "The Sunflare technology works," he told them simply, "but it's not without cost. The Defiant will need months of repair before it can deploy again." The council president, an older woman with steel-gray hair, leaned forward. "Captain Porter, your mission has changed everything." Already, 3 other alien civilizations previously aligned with the Vorn have sent diplomatic envoys requesting meetings. They wish to establish relations with Earth as equals. "And the Vorn?" Porter asked. "They've requested a ceasefire and withdrawn their blockade ships to the outer system. Their ambassador has, for the first time, asked to negotiate rather than dictate terms." A murmur of satisfaction ran through the chamber. Production of more Sunflare-equipped ships began immediately in shipyards around Earth and Mars. Scientists improved the design based on data from the Defiant's mission, creating more efficient and less damaging versions of the technology. 6 months later, Porter stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station, watching as 5 new vessels of the Defiant class conducted maneuvers. Each carried an improved Sunflare array, along with conventional weapons and better shielding. First Officer Taylor joined him, now wearing the insignia of a captain himself. "The Vorn delegation arrives tomorrow for the treaty signing," he said. "Word is they're sending their high command's second-in-command." Porter nodded, eyes still on the ships. "They won't underestimate us again." "No," Taylor agreed. "No more laughter at human ships." Below them, Earth continued its peaceful rotation, its skies clear of alien warships for the first time in years. In laboratories and shipyards, in classrooms and government halls, humanity prepared for its new role in the galactic community, not as primitives to be conquered, but as innovators to be respected. The age of humiliation had ended. In its place, a new era had begun, one where the galaxy learned that sometimes the smallest ships carry the biggest surprises.